Okay, are we good?
Yep.
Okay, this is just some kind of miscellaneous things. We talked about the ITU and spread spectrum, which is a special type of transmission. Uh, it's it's mostly used for things like cell phones and remote control of model craft. Um, Military uses it a lot because uh, it's um, it's got encryption. It's very hard to um decipher a spread spectrum transmission. Uh, Harmful interference is a big thing that they really watch out for, and it's called interference which endangers the functioning of a radio navigation service or of other safety services or serious degrades, obstructs, or repeatedly interrupts a radio communication service operating in accordance with the radio regulations. So, uh, interfering with broadcast radio, for instance, would get you in a lot of trouble. Uh, Interfering with military operations, emergency services, things like that. They take that kind of stuff seriously. And we talked about RIDI before, which is a keyboard to keyboard type of connection. It's very narrow band, doesn't use as much bandwidth as single sideband. And they actually recently had they have one at least once a year, a RIDI contest with the ARL. We talked about control. Local control is when you are operating your station and you're physically at the station. Remote control is when you're operating the station through some remote means, typically the internet, but it means you're not physically at the station. Automatic control means the station is operating on its own. You still uh, have to have a control operator that doesn't have to be physically present, but they have to be able to control the uh, device, or usually a repeater or a beacon, to be able to shut it off or whatever. And the control point is defined at the location at which the control operator function is being performed. So the control point can be local, remote, or essentially somewhere else on automatic control, which is kind of would be remote, but you're not actually you're controlling it. You're monitoring it, and you have the ability to control it, but you don't have to control it real time. Okay. So we talked about the ITU regions earlier. There's three of them. Uh, we're in North America, so we're in region two. So is South America. Um, I mentioned that Guam, which is a U.S. territory, is in region three. So if you're communicating with somebody in Guam, you have to take into account that the frequency allocation might be slightly different than region two. And this is actually the same chart that I did earlier, so we pretty much talked that one to death.
Ah, I see the headers.
I put this 3.5 to 3.6 over here because in region two, Generals can operate from 3525 to 36. Extras can operate from 35 to 3525. So that's another little bottom segment that you get if you get an extra. Okay, third party traffic. Uh, let's see, Nanette,
Yes,
you were actually doing third party at field day.
correct.
So because uh, you didn't have privileges for voice on the channels they were or the frequencies they were using.
Correct.
Somebody else was the control operator.
Correct.
Okay. Um,
Which means we used his license, his sign, his code.
right.
Yeah.
Um, when you're doing third party traffic for somebody in a foreign country, which means you're going through a control operator to a control operator in a foreign country, that country has to have a third party uh, agreement with the United States for you to be able to do that.
Right.
I don't know which countries don't have. Uh, I guess that's something to look up sometime. And there's some limitations on the type of messages you're allowed to transmit for third party. Typically, it's I forgot the exact wording, something like messages of a personal character and something like that. Basically, just normal type stuff. You wouldn't be allowed to try to sell something or do business things like that are normally restricted anyway.
Mhm.
Also, you cannot be a third party if you ever had your license revoked. Even if you got reinstated, for some reason, they really penalize you. You can't be a third party.
Hmm.
Let's see. So the control operator has to be present. I don't know. Did you actually do the push to talk, or did the control operator?
I did.
Okay, but you were supervised, right?
Correct.
Okay. You cannot do third party under automatic control unless it's doing RIDI or some data emission. And I don't really understand all of that one, but just go with what it says. Oh, yeah, here's the thing. You're limited to communications incidental to the purposes of the amateur service and to remarks of a personal character. I'm not exactly sure what that means. I guess it's hi, Joe, how are you, or something. And like I said, you're disqualified if you ever had your license revoked and not reinstated, suspended, or canceled. Well, this says if you were reinstated, so I thought it was more severe than that. Typically, if you had it revoked, you probably don't get it reinstated anyway.
All right.
Interference, they're, like I said, they're really big on not interfering, especially willfully or maliciously, doing it by accident, like out of band or on a, you know, a frequency that's in use by somebody and you didn't realize it. Um, but if you're doing shared stuff, you have to give priority. In cases of emergency, you have to give priority. And on the emergency thing, and we'll talk about race season a little bit, Uh, Sometimes they do training drills and tests. So as part of the RACES operation, you do not have to defer if it's a drill or a test. So you should try to eliminate or avoid interference at all times. You're not allowed to interfere with an FCC monitoring facility. Right? If you're within a mile or 1,600 meters. As far as I know, there's only like 3 in the country. So it's not likely, and I don't remember where they're at. But if you are interfering with them, they could revoke your license and fine you. The shared bands, which we talked about, like the 60 meter and 30 meter. In addition, and I never realized that the 70 centimeter band was shared. Most people don't seem to know that. The most familiar one would be the 2.4 gigahertz, which is one of the cell phone, and the 5 gigahertz. Both are cell phone and Wi-Fi bands. Those are shared bands. So if you're on a shared band, you just have to accept interference from whoever is primary. And the Wi-Fi bands, the 2.4 and the 5, and that higher one, primary are medical and some scientific and industrial research things which have primary licenses in that area. We talked about spread spectrum. If you're transmitting spread spectrum, you have to make sure you're not causing harmful interference if you're or with stations that are doing some other type of emission. One of the reasons there, spread spectrum is a very, very wide bandwidth. And that's why it's called spread spectrum. They, instead of putting the emission in a very narrow, 2.8 kilohertz or 100 kilohertz like CW, or some of them, they may spread it out over 50 kilohertz or something. I forgot how wide it can actually go. There's a lot more stuff about spread spectrum when you do the extra license. And spread spectrum is limited to 10 watts PEP. Beacons. As I mentioned, the International Beacon Project. I think I got the title wrong when I talked about it before. Has these 18 beacons that were allocated these 5 frequencies. So you need to avoid those 5 designated frequencies. If it's an automatically controlled digital station, it can be anywhere above 50 megahertz or the 6 meter band. And there's some sections of HF where you can do it. And I can't say I know a whole lot about these, but you can have an automatically controlled RTTY station communicating with another automatically controlled station. I've never seen that kind of setup, but I guess technically it's possible where it can automatically send messages back and forth between 2 RTTY stations, as long as it's in the 6 meter or above, or a couple segments down in HF. You're not allowed to communicate under automatic control if you're outside any of those segments set aside specifically for automatic control. And mesh networks, and I think this has been deleted, but it's been getting popular where amateurs take commercial routers and load different firmware where they can set up a mesh network with a lot of these routers and they communicate with each other. They have some protocol where they can find another station and that one can find another one, and it becomes kind of a mesh configuration. So you can go from point A to point B through multiple paths. So if one of those stations has a problem, there's still a way to get from point A to point B. They're limited to 10 watts because they're also, since it's basically Wi-Fi, they're using spread spectrum. And the third-party rules still apply. And you obviously cannot communicate with a non-licensed Wi-Fi station, which implies that since Wi-Fi is in the amateur band, even though not primary, we could transmit Wi-Fi as an amateur. Okay. Which of the following would disqualify a third party from participating and sending a message via an amateur station?
Alpha.
Alpha.
Yep.
When may a 10-meter repeater retransmit the 2-meter signal from a station that has a technician class control operator? They worded this to try to confuse you.
Yeah.
I would say forget about the technician class control operator.
Delta?
I'm guessing Bravo.
Well, sorry.
I don't know.
As
That was
long
right.
as,
All right.
as long as the repeater control operator is a general class, it doesn't
Okay.
matter whether it was a station from a technician.
Okay.
It only
Hmm.
applies to the repeater.
Yeah, that's the part that threw me was the repeater part. I thought that pretty much when you like when you signal out, the repeater just sends it out. So I didn't realize that it would change
Well,
the
but remember, repeater uh, is a station. It has a station license.
right.
Okay. And if it's operating on 10 meters, the control operator and the station licensee have to be at least general class operators.
But when I
The
use
tech, the tech operator is operating under their supervision.
No, the control operator for the repeater, since it's operating on in the general license band, has to be at least a general.
okay, so when I use a repeater, even though I'm a technician, how does a repeater? I mean, like how? I'm a
Well,
little.
because if you're using a repeater
Mm-hmm.
that's VHF or UHF, the control operator only has to be a technician.
Okay, so not to take you down a rabbit hole, but like on our Wednesday night net group,
Right.
so we're operating in a tech, even though everybody's probably much higher than me and has general or
Right.
extras, they're still operating on the technician so that I can attend.
Yes, because it's
Okay.
operating on a
Okay.
frequency that's part of the technician
Okay. I didn't
privileges.
realize that. Okay.
Mhm.
And they put that question in. And like I said, I don't know that we have any 10-meter repeaters in this area. But
Yeah.
if it was a 10-meter repeater, since that's operating in the general frequency band,
Mm-hmm.
you need general frequency privileges to operate it.
I did not realize that. Okay. Because everybody else programmed my channels for me, so I didn't realize that that was an issue. But I understand.
Yeah, well, they did because that's kind of a rabbit hole type of question.
Yeah, I got you.
What is required to conduct communications with a digital station operating under automatic control outside the automatic control band segments?
It's required to conduct communications with a digital station. Um, both the stations have to be.
Alpha.
Right.
Yes.
You can't make an automatic to automatic if you're outside the automatic band.
Right.
Which of the following conditions require a licensed amateur radio operator to take specific steps to avoid harmful interference to other users or facilities?
Delta.
Delta, very good.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are the restrictions on messages sent to a third party in a country with which there's a third party agreement?
It has to relate to Charlie.
Charlie, that remember the personal character.
Right.
The frequency allocations of which ITU region apply to radio amateurs operating in North and South America?
Charlie.
Charlie.
In what part of the 13-centimeter band may an amateur station communicate with non-licensed Wi-Fi stations?
I'd say Delta.
Very good. You can't do it. What is the maximum PEP output allowed for spread spectrum transmissions?
Wasn't that Bravo?
Bravo.
Mhm.
Under what circumstances are messages that are sent via digital modes exempt from Part 97 third-party rules that apply to other modes of communications?
Alpha.
And I don't know why they withdrew that one. Something must have changed to make that not true, but I'm not sure what it is. Why should an amateur operator normally avoid transmitting on those 5 frequencies?
Alpha.
Alpha
Yeah.
is that international beacon,
Beacon.
whatever thing.
Right.
On what bands may automatically controlled stations transmitting RIDI or data communicate with other automatically controlled digital station? Seemed like it should have been digital stations.
Is that Delta?
No idea. Alpha.
I think it's Delta.
Delta.
That's one you'll probably miss. When may third-party messages be transmitted via remote control?
That would be
Bravo. Bravo.
when a third, yeah,
Oh,
when a third party messages.
well, isn't that kind of circular?
Excuse me?
When may third-party messages be transmitted via remote control? Under any circumstances in which three-party messages, oh, okay, so nothing special for remote control. Okay,
Yeah, it just says that the control operator, even for third party, doesn't have to physically be there.
okay,
Just has to be in control.
right.
Okay.
Okay. Very good.